let me ask you about yourself, your own self, who mentioned Richard Wrangham. Think about mortality. Do you think about your own mortality? Are you afraid of death?
Yeah, interesting. I'm not afraid of death. I agree with Richard Wrangham. I'm not eager to leave the party. I don't
Yeah.
want to leave the party soon. I enjoy life in all of its interesting complexities. I enjoy my scientific work. I enjoy my relationships with other people. I enjoy exploring the universe. So I'm not eager to leave, but I'm not afraid of it. And I think part of that is that I was married for a while, and my wife died prematurely of cancer, and so I spent basically 8 months with her, watching her die after she was diagnosed. And there's some weird. It was a horrible time for me and for her, obviously, but there's some way in which it kind of made it more familiar, so that it's became a lot less frightening. You know, but
How did that experience change you? Just as a scientist, as a thinker about humanity, um, as a human yourself.
well,
So you're saying you
yeah.
felt like you felt a little bit more ready for this whole end of the party.
Well, or yeah, it's I mean, because we tend to be afraid of things that we're not familiar with, and so if you're familiar with it, I don't know. At least in my case, that caused a lessening of fear on that dimension. But I don't know. It also kind of, there are these existential thoughts that it brought about, like how ephemeral life is, and I remember this Richard Dawkins quote. He said something like, "We are all going to die, and we're the lucky ones." you know,
Yeah, that we even got a chance.
Yeah, or even you mentioned Russian writers. One of my favorite writers is Nabokov, Vladimir Nabokov. I don't know if you've read him, but he said once that life is a chink of light between two eternities of darkness.
And you're saying that's not terrifying to you?
Well, I'd prefer. I'm happy with the first eternity of darkness. I'd prefer the second not to occur, but it's going to occur. I mean, it's we know that Elon Musk aside, I'm skeptical that we'll be colonizing other planets in any substantive way. And so our star, our sun, will burn out, and so it's going to take a few billion years or so, but it will eventually, the Earth will become a cold lump of dirt floating around in the universe with no life on it.
So
So
it's not just your light, the light of your consciousness. It's the light of our human civilization that will eventually go out.
yes, everything, at least here. I do believe that there is life and intelligent life in other parts of the universe, on other planets.
I sometimes wonder if the second eternal darkness is the thing that makes the light possible. So in the other places out there, I wonder how successful can you truly be without the deadline of death, both at the human scale and at the civilizational scale. I feel like in order to create anything beautiful, we have to live on the edge of destruction. That seems to be, some people would say that's just a feature of our past, that our future can be otherwise. But
Yeah.
like you, I'm somebody that looks at the data, and currently the data says otherwise. But of course, we're constantly changing the data because there's change. So we'll see. What we see. I wonder what the future holds for us. Speaking of which, as somebody who wrote a textbook on evolutionary psychology, what do you think is the meaning of the whole thing? What's the meaning of life?
Um,
You're very good at describing how the human mind is the way it is, but why is it here at all? What's the purpose?
Well, I can give you my answer to that, but I would actually love to hear your answer, because I know you've asked this question of dozens and dozens of people on your podcast. And
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on that?
Well, first of all, my mind changes on that a lot, and I think the process of answering the question is the fun thing, not the actual final answer. I think the question itself is the most fun thing. But for me, usually, is two things. One is love, and we can talk a long time. What I mean by that is not just romantic love, and two is to create, and hopefully to create beauty. So. And again, I can talk forever what that means. For me personally, creating beauty means engineering and creating experiences like connection with others. On the love side, it's just the actual feeling, the experience of deep appreciation of everything around you, like the sensory experiences of everything around you, just feeling it every single moment, saying, I'm damn glad to be alive. That light with the darkness on each side, just being appreciative, like being in the experience of truly present and experiencing it, because it's not going to be there for long. The whole thing ends, and that to me is love. And the reason romantic love is so important is that other people are just awesome. They're fascinating black boxes that can generate awesomeness. So can like other animals and objects for me, but humans in particular, for some reason, are just
Yeah.
generators of awesomeness.
Yes.
They surprise us,
Yeah. Yeah.
and therefore a good target of love.
Well, so that's a much more eloquent answer than I could give, but I'll just say a thought or two
Yes, please.
on that. And I mean, one of the things that what is the meaning of life? I mean, in some sense, if you're thinking about some eternal purpose, meaning like if we look 5 billion years hence, will any of this mean anything? I think the answer to that is probably no. Okay, but and this is, I think, where my answer would concur with yours, is that I think we have a rich, evolved psychology that contains many complex adaptations. And at any one moment in time, most are quiescent, most are not activated. But for me, part of the meaning of life is experiencing the activation of a lot of these complicated, evolved psychological mechanisms. And they include romantic love, they include friendship, they include being part of a group or coalition, because I think we're an intensely coalitional species. So there's something about being a group member. So, like, just even, I don't know, if you're in sports, if your team wins, you feel that somehow you're part of that. But this goes for both the positive and the darker sides of things. So for example, warfare. You see these men who have been through a war together, and where their lives have depended on each other, and they're like best friends for life, and have a bond that is stronger than most people form with a friend ever in their life, because they've been through these life or death experiences. And so, I wouldn't want to, doesn't cause me to want to charge off and be in war, but there are some types of adaptations, even like warfare adaptations, where in principle, I would like to experience them. I would like to experience, and never will, but what is it like to be in a coalition where you are in combat with another coalition, and not in modern warfare, because it's horrible, but where your life is in danger, where your life, you depend for your life on other people, and they're depending for their life on you. And there's this kind of coalitional solidarity that is unique. Now, another thing that, of course, I'll never be able to experience is murder, because I'm never going to murder anybody. Okay, but
The night is young.
but studying homicidal ideation really gave me it was an eye opener. It was as interesting as studying sexual fantasies, because if you ask what triggers homicidal thoughts, ideation, most people have had them. And because I asked this question, have you ever thought about killing someone? And I get about 91% of men say yes, and about 84% of women say no. And even when I talk to people, they say one-on-one, they'll say, "Oh no, I've never thought of killing someone. What kind of person do you think I am?" And then 10 minutes later, I say, "Actually, there was this one time when this guy humiliated me in public, and and so." But I think thoughts about killing, homicidal ideation, and they're very predictable from an evolutionary perspective. If you, like we mentioned, mate poachers earlier, and infidelity, and there are other things, but things like that, being humiliated in public, status loss, do trigger homicidal thoughts. So anyway, I don't go off too much on that, but I guess what I'm saying in answer to your question is experiencing the rich array of complex psychology that we have within us, most of which remains unactivated, and some of which will never be experienced. There's some people who will never experience love, for example, because of cultural restrictions or whatever. And so, to me, that's part of the meaning of life.
So that's so beautifully put. The saying that they're kind of dormant, inactivated aspects of the psychological mechanism. So we have the capacity to experience a bunch of stuff. It's almost like in video games, you can unlock levels and so on. And so this is basically, there's all of these things that are dormant in our mind that we have the capacity to experience. And part of the meaning is to try to experience as many of them, or as many new ones, novel for the particular society, or maybe the entirety of human civilization. Who knows? Psychedelic drugs, like you said, violence, experiences that might have to do with brain-computer interfaces. The interaction with all of those are experiences. And so the question is, what is the ceiling? What are, how infinite or nearly infinite is the capacity of the human mind to experience all those things? And we'll get to discover those things. So I'm glad you never got a chance and never will get a chance to murder. But I just want to put it on record that that's definitely something on my bucket list. Why do you think I dress like this? No. Anyway, there is something appealing. Like, one of my favorite movies is Leon the Professional.
Oh, I love that movie.
What is that? Why is that so exciting? Listen, maybe it's the OCD thing, like killing other bad guys.
Right. No women, no children.
No women, no children. Also loving that with
Natalie Portman.
Natalie Portman, incredible actress. Also the complex, whatever that is, the fatherly or romantic, whatever that is, like Lolita type of thing. I don't know what, I've never read a PhD thesis on that interpretation of that movie, but that's a fascinating one. Violence and love and sex. That's what makes life worth living. That's what makes it fun. David, you're an incredible person, incredible scientist. It's a huge honor to share a city with you. Or I'm the visitor. You own this place. You run this place.
Well, I don't. We both live here now. And, and it's been great talking to you. It's a great honor for me. I've followed your podcast for a long, long time now, and tremendously enjoy your interviews. And you have a very inquisitive, inviting style that brings out things in your guests, which I think is fantastic. Activates all those dormant psychological mechanisms.
That's what life, that's what conversation is all about. Thank you for talking today.
Thank you.